And we are live again with the Talking with Francesco series. I'm super excited because today I have a good friend, and today we'll talk about AI, developers, coding. And I'm also excited because this is actually my last live stream before going on vacation 10 days. No worries, there will be live streams later. Today I can give my 110%. And today we'll have, I think, now we'll know something more about the let's say AI era, but a focus for developers, because now everything is AI. But I like when we talk about something specific for developers, tools for developers, tools that can help developers for real. So I already tested this tool, but I wanted to have a nice discussion with the co-founder. So welcome, Guy. How are you and how's it going? Please introduce yourself. And here is one.
Yeah, doing great, Francesco. Thanks for having me on. So I'm Guy Guir-Ari, one of the founders of Augment Code. I work on research product. I previously was at Google working on training large language models. And in my academic background, I'm a physicist. So I kind of caught the AI bug and transitioned to AI and have been having a wild ride since then, working in the field.
This is actually super interesting. I love, and I already have many questions about this. So like having like a slightly different backgrounds. I'm a huge fan of people who like apply different skills on different careers. I also come from another area. Yes. So first of all, Guy, I would like to know more like about your background and how did you get into tech. And now this is getting me really interesting because you already made a couple of spoilers, and I would like to know how did you get into tech. If you want to also give a bit of background, I don't know if you worked as a physicist before. So I'm really curious. I didn't know this. When I do this podcast, I always know something new with you. So this is not a fake reaction. I'm really, let's say, I didn't even know that you worked at Google. So let's get started and let's see. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess I got into tech pretty early. I started coding when I was 10. Once we got a computer at home, I got hooked, playing video games and then learning how to code. And I've been coding essentially my whole life. And so I'm originally from Israel. I worked there in tech. I was early member at a startup there that later got acquired by Microsoft. And then I felt I needed a change and I went into physics and I worked in physics for about 10 years. That's also what brought me to the States, and then made the transition essentially from physics back into tech when I switched back to working on AI.
Great, great. Thank you. And so I would like to know, like your experience with AI, especially let's say, can we say that like it was like maybe 2022, 2023? I don't know when it started. Maybe with GitHub Copilot, or maybe something that I don't know. We had some tools before. I don't know when we can say we officially started in AI era, but so I'm really curious about your thoughts on this. So let's talk about how it was the ecosystem, let's say 2 years ago, for example. Now there seems so far, but like 2 years ago is not that long a span of time. So what about like 2 years ago
Hmm,
and your
I see.
experience with AI?
So yeah, so I think let's see, GitHub Copilot was at least one of the first products built on top of generative AI, and that predates. That's before 2 years ago. So when Augment started 3 years ago, GitHub Copilot was already a product that was out there. So that was definitely one of the earlier products. Um, 3 years ago is also when ChatGPT came out. And so I think that is when people really saw the promise of generalizable generative AI being useful, not just on specific tasks, but very generally. So I think ChatGPT was, of course, a pivotal moment that got people to see the promise of this technology. I think for me, working at Google, I could kind of see us crossing a threshold because I was using these models every day, and they were certainly not as easy to use as ChatGPT. You had to prompt them with a lot more effort. You had to do things like few shot prompting and so on, and maybe sometimes train them to get good results out of them. But it was clear that these models were getting better faster. And then yeah, once ChatGPT came out, then the field really accelerated quickly because suddenly we had something that was useful for like a vast majority of people and not just in some niche domains.
Yes, I don't know. Yeah, maybe we can talk about like the. Usually we talk about the era before and after COVID, and now we have before and after ChatGPT. So, and I also been one of the. I remember me being like mind blown about like GitHub completion in 2023. It seems like
Mhm.
something like super advanced. I experienced this, for example, in a live event, and it felt like the future. Now that's probably not the most exciting thing, but it's still useful, I would say. And Padum is saying that it's mind blowing how fast this space is moving, even faster than a new release of a JavaScript framework. So we are almost there. Yes, yes, Padum. Yes, I think it has been a while. I think AI is actually moving faster than the JavaScript ecosystem now, which is really scary. And yes, by the way, if you're in the chat, feel free to say hi. We are doing these live events so you can interact live with human beings. I think it's very important in this AI era to remember that we are still humans. I think at least the guy, it seems human to me. Maybe he's not. I'm not even sure anymore. But we are doing this just to have a chat. So if you have a question, even if you have some basic questions about Augment code, feel free to drop it. You can check it at the link below. I put the link at the top of the chat. If you want to know, play around now, and then during the live stream, ask any question. This is probably your best chance to do it. So you can keep the chat, the live on the side. You can try to playing around with it, and then you can let us know if you like it, if you understand what it can do, what maybe is limited with. So we can always improve these tools. And something like connection request on LinkedIn. Okay, perfect. So see, you already have someone connecting you, who want to be connected with you on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Perfect. So, Guy, okay, so this was the say 2 years ago. So now I'm really curious about. So you co-founded Augment Code, right?
Mhm.
So now I would like to know, since here we are introducing it, how the idea started, and because this always fascinates me that like when there is like actually a product, a landing page, like users, paying users, free users, people tend to give this for granted. Like, it's there. Facebook is there. But before, I'm always curious about this part. Like before, it was not there. They probably didn't have the domain. So, how did the idea started? How the idea got started with who? So, if you can remember some crucial parts of this creation, I think this might help even us to understand, I don't know, which problem do you wanted to solve, how you were focused, how maybe you were tiered, if you want to also remember some parts of the story that you think they are funny, scary, bad, good. Feel free to do it. I think this is a nice part because it makes the product more humans, that is built by humans. So, yes, Guy, I'm really curious about your answer about this.
Yeah, so the premise was we knew that AI models were getting better quickly, and we felt there was room for a product that would address the needs of enterprises, large teams working on large code base that want to use AI to increase their productivity. I remember we were having the first time we were chatting about this. I was chatting with someone, one of the partners at Sutter Hill Ventures, which was our investor, and we were talking about this idea of maybe building a product for enterprises that understands your code base. Um, but I was asking, well, how are we going to compete with Copilot? Copilot was the main AI tool at the time. It certainly seemed like magic to me as well. I mean, it was one of the first fits of really generative AI with something you could do in the real world. And it was by GitHub, which is owned by Microsoft. And so we're trying to think, well, how are we going to compete with that, right? And the answer was, well, if we go to large enterprises, large teams, they have a lot of proprietary information. They have code bases, they have design documents, they have all their code history, they have Slack messages. And I knew from my work at Google that all of that information is gold when you know how to extract it and present it to a model. The model can do a much better job because the models, the AI models, they're only as good as the context that you give them. Um, and so we thought that if we can get access to this information and we can make good use of it, we can build a better quality product than a generic product that doesn't really understand your code base. And so that was the thesis from the beginning. And in the beginning, this was our first task as a company. It was really a research challenge to try to make models understand code bases, no matter how large the code base is. And I think we spent about a year trying several different approaches to this problem until we found something that worked really well. And that's since then, that's been our secret sauce, really, is how do we deal with very large contexts. Um, so that was the beginning, and we implemented this first for completions, which was the first feature. Again, competing with Copilot. But then every other feature we built, we kind of insisted that it should really understand your code base, even though it ended up being quite a bit more work. But Next Edit, Chat, and now Agent, they all understand your code base, no matter how large it is.
Nice, and I like how you tried basically to solve this problem, which is basically, as far as I got, is like giving more context to our AI tool, but let's say without being scared that these things will be used. Is this this was the issue that we were trying to solve, right?
Uh,
Or no?
yes, I think, of course, whenever you do something like this, there are a lot of challenges. It's not just the competition, it's whether, will people like the product? Will they actually use it? And so on and so forth. And so that just boils down to, I mean, if you believe in the technology and you believe in the direction, which is, for me at least, coming from a background of working on this stuff, I was extremely excited about where things were headed. I felt this was essentially a once in a lifetime technological revolution that's going to change software development as well as many other fields. So if you come at it from that perspective and you believe in that, then it boils down to execution. Can you build a product that users understand how to use, that they love how to use? It really boils down to that, which is what we really went and focused on, besides the research of just actually getting it to work.
Perfect. Thank you. And I can see even from the background here on the screen that you support GPT-5, Sonnet 4. You can install it as a browser extension. So maybe for people who are not developers, they don't get the idea, but this takes a lot of energy, and also you also need to be fast, because I already see GPT-5, for example. I don't know how long you implement this, but this is sort of new, let's say. So how did you manage? I have a question, which is how do you manage, let's say, to keep the pace yourself? Because I think just staying up to date with AI is a challenge. Like just reading the news is a challenge, but building a product is another level. So how do you stay up to date, and how you keep Augment code like relevant, on the edge? Because I think this is an issue. It's like a race for everyone who is trying to do something like this. I really want to try the VS Code extension. By the way, I didn't install it today because tomorrow I have a plane, but I will try install it as soon as I'll be back. because I'm curious, and I think that when we have something really close to developers, and I think is one of the reasons why GitHub Copilot basically is successful. So I'm really curious about that part. So how do you keep the pace, and how do you keep integrating these things in this project?
Yeah, there's definitely a race going on, because this is every time you have a new technology, there is a race to go out and build the best products that users are going to love. We're seeing that in code with developers now. Um, I would say, I mean, so I think at a company level, the thing we've had to learn how to do in this space is try to make thoughtful bets, but then also kill things early when they're not going in the right direction. Because the thing that's tricky is figuring out what product is going to resonate with users. We have some signals for that. We often will build a prototype and try it out in dog fooding and see what the reaction is. Um, so we did that for many of our features. We have a feature that enhances your prompt. We have a feature that lets you manage a task list. We have a CLI tool now. We always dog food them first, but I think in order to maintain the pace, you kind of have to do that quickly, see if the signal is there for adoption, and if it's not, kill it. Because really in this space, there's just no time to spend on features that are not taking off. Um, so that's one. I think now the flip side of that is that when you do things very quickly and you try to get to market as quickly as possible, often that means taking on tech debt, which can then later slow you down. So you can't just go as fast as possible all the time. You have to pay attention to when development is slowing down because you took on too much tech debt, and then sometimes you have to go and do refactoring or do restructuring so that you can really maintain that pace. So these are all things that happen normally in software development. It's just that this space is so fast moving that you have to be more thoughtful about where you spend your time, and also honestly work harder. I mean, that's to me is like always part of the answer. There's only so much you can do with better process and better bets and so on. At the end of the day, also working harder and more hours definitely helps, which I think has become kind of in some sense, a theme of this space. Like many people in this space are very, very, very hardworking with very high intensity, and that's true for Augment as well.
Yes. So basically, the analogy that I made with a race is on point. You can't go whole 100% speed during a race. So there are some turn points you will end up not going very well if you just go full speed all the time. This is not how a race does work. So, so yes. Now, Guy, I want to make a game with you, which I usually do when I invite someone here, which is like, how would you explain Augment code if you were sitting at a bar, relaxed with some friends? So we have friends here in the chat. So let's say we are a bit out of, let's say, of the formal stuff. We will keep this maybe for another day. How would you explain this, like in this way? You know, say someone maybe they see a T-shirt with Augment code, say, "Hey, what is that? Maybe can you tell me more about what you're currently working on and explain me what you do? If you want, you can also take a real a real drink, but for now I have just some water for now, so we can pretend that this is a drink." And now we can have, this very relaxed conversation. And so, how would you introduce the Augment code to a guy like this? I'm curious.
I see. Um, hmm. So yeah, I guess I would start maybe by talking about my own experience a bit and how it's changed over time, because
Yes.
I've been programming for many years now, and what I'm seeing with Augment is it's remarkable, but I don't have to write code myself anymore. That is the biggest change I've seen over the last, I don't know, 6 months or so.
Okay.
Um, because we actually do have agents now that can write all the code for you, and that is what Augment does. Like, it doesn't matter if you're working on a hobby project on the weekend or you're working on your large enterprise code base. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you can use our tool and it will write code for you. It will debug it. It will do deployments. It will do testing. And you can lay back and steer it more as a tech lead. And then the really cool thing that I like about it is that once you can do that, while it's working, you can actually launch another agent and another agent and have them work on different tasks, which honestly feels like a superpower. Like, going from, as a developer, having to type every letter of every character in the code, very manual, kind of tedious work, and completions kind of help with that a little bit. But going from that to a highly powerful agent that you can kind of just like ask to do stuff, and a lot of the times it will go and just do them well. You will look at the code that generates and it comes out really good, and if it doesn't, you can steer it. um, that to me is the experience. When I use the product, that's the experience I have. And so that's how I would describe it. It's an agent that lets you do anything in your code base, no matter how big your code base is.
And I think this is a really a strong point. I think you also make a strong statement on your website, which is the most powerful AI software development platform. So this is I always love like bold statements because they make me really curious. So I'll say, what do you think is something that makes augment code really special in this era when basically there are many tools around that do maybe slightly different things. Some of them they have extensions, some of them they don't, some of them they have different pricing, different structure, different ideas. For example, again, I'm curious about the VS Code and JetBrains extension. What do you think is something that makes Augment Code really special and unique in this field nowadays?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a few things. The code base understanding, and more generally now the context understanding, because it's gone beyond the code base. That is the main thing that differentiates us. It means that you can go into a large, complex code base, and you don't have to do so much handholding for the agent to perform its task. You can give it fairly high level instructions. You can use features like the prompt enhancer to kind of fill in the gaps, but then it really comes down to our context engine, which lets the agent navigate large code bases with ease. And so this is why I believe we have the best agent out there. It's a combination of our context engine and, of course, all the hard work that goes into prompting these agents and providing them the tools that they need to perform their tasks. The other thing is that we meet developers where they are. We have extensions, as you mentioned, into VS Code and JetBrains and Vim, and especially I would say JetBrains users. Um, we found that they really love JetBrains and they don't want to switch to a completely different IDE. And so with Augment, they get the full power of AI agents right there integrated into their IDE. You don't need to switch away to other windows or anything like that. So I'd say meeting developers where they are is the second key point for us and how we're different from others.
I really love these strong points, and I've been using JetBrains a lot, especially in the past. I think it depends on the type of projects, and I agree with you that people who use JetBrains they really love that IDE, so they think they will find this super useful, probably the best killer feature. But I like the fact that you also do like something like more mainstream. Can we say mainstream? Yes, because Stack Overflow said that VS Code is used more, so we can say it without making anyone upset. And so, but I like that you do give both the solutions. You also give support to NeoVim, you mentioned, maybe.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay,
we
so
have
more.
support for Vim. That
Mhm.
was we built it because it was the third most popular editor. I was actually surprised that it's in terms of popularity, it's VS Code, JetBrains, and Vim. I'm a longtime Vim user, so it doesn't matter what editor I'm in. I will use Vim key bindings. So these days I use VS Code, but I always use the Vim key bindings. Um, but yeah, Vim is extremely popular. We built Augment into it as a Vim extension. And now that we are releasing the CLI tool, I think it means that you can get Augment in even more places, or at least the Augment agent, which is what the CLI tool does. Because now you have a tool that's essentially, if you want to work in the IDE, you can work in the IDE, but if you want to work anywhere else, the CLI is just decoupled from an IDE. You can now introduce agents to any workflow that you like. So that's kind of the next step for us.
Perfect. I have a very quick question, which is why you don't have a Vim icon on the website, or maybe I missed it. Do you have to update it?
Yeah, I think that's probably because for the Vim extension, we support completions and chat, but we don't have the agent. And so
Okay,
when we had the Vim icon, I think users gave us feedback that, but you don't have like all the features in there. And so we are like, okay, if we're talking
got
about
it.
the agent and the features not
Got it.
there, yes, yes. But I
Got
think
it.
with the
So,
CLI, that's how we're gonna fill that gap with Vim.
mm.
Yeah,
Okay, okay, okay. Sorry, I wanted to ask because
yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah,
maybe I found something.
yeah.
And so, tell me more about this CLI. So, this is something that's been releasing like lately, and how has been, for example, the process of and how basically what do you think it's something that developer would probably love, because usually we love say CLI. I'm a huge fan of CLI. Says yes, I still do. I still like to type git push and then the branch, because I don't know, maybe I this is the way I like doing it, because at least I know that it's the same on all the is all the. I don't want to think when I do write git commands, so I'm a huge fan of CLIs. Why a CLI? Why do you think like is can be really useful in this context? What it has like more?
Yeah, so CLI was actually the first agent that we built internally was a CLI agent. And then we felt that instead of releasing that immediately, we wanted to go through the IDE route because we thought that that could be more easily adopted by the vast majority of developers. But now that agents have become um, so ubiquitous. And we see that there are other tools out there that are based on the CLI that developers seem to really love. We felt it'd be useful to go back to the first version that we had, at least the form factor that we had, and release a CLI tool that complements the rest of the features that we have. And the advantages of CLI are first, there's the feeling. I think for many developers, working in the terminal feels like you have more control in some sense. You're kind of closer to the metal. Like you're not far away from what's happening through all the GUI, but you're like really there. Even though in terms of the agent for us, it's the same exact agent that you get in the IDE, but it feels different. And then there are also some actual objective advantages. CLI is a lot easier to parallelize. Like it's very easy to open tmux and open a few tabs and run a separate CLI in each one of them. If it's running on a remote machine, you can close your laptop and the CLI will keep running in the background. So you don't need to interrupt it. With the IDE, that's not possible. So there are these advantages. But for us, the biggest reason to do the CLI is the fact that you can use it for automation. So we make it very easy for you to put the CLI into your GitHub Actions, for example, and automate things like code reviews or generating PR descriptions, or really do whatever you want with it, because the CLI is such a flexible tool that it actually means that you can now take intelligence and put it into any of the workflows that you have. And then some of our customers who are testing the tool, we're seeing some very creative use cases out of them. Like we have one customer that's using it to analyze their production logs and then automatically generate and assign tickets whenever they see errors. We have ticket to PR. Ticket to PR in one shot has become, I would say, more and more common as agents have gotten better. And so we are seeing automation of ticket to PR. And various other use cases. And so we are very excited about the automation angle with CLI, which is just not possible when you have an ID agent.
This was a great answer that really made me really happy. And I think they are all very strong points, especially if you are, let's say, a developer that really want to dive deep. I like the idea of automating stuff and the idea to do things in background. I think it's a killer thing because this is usually how we like to work and do things. So the things, I don't know, they happen under the hood, so we can stop thinking about them for a while, and then we can, but we still have, let's say, things that are happening in background. Super curious to test it out, to be honest, and I'm really curious and hooked, I would say, because maybe I also would like to compare them. Probably, the IDE is probably a good solution, maybe to start, get started, maybe, and try some prompts. So maybe I would like you to thank you, of course. I would like to ask you like more about like the title, the main topic, which is like, writing better code with AI. So of course you can talk about Augment code, but I would like to know from your point of view, like how can developer actually write better code for real in this AI era where AI can generate a lot of code, but is that code always the the right one? So talking about the quality of the code that we are writing and we are also probably creating as a legacy for the future generations. So what do you think is a good way to use AI properly to actually write better code?
Um, Maybe I could just show you how I'm using the tool. Would that be helpful if I just show the kind of the
For
workflow that I have?
that would be great. Yes, and so if you have any questions in the chat, any specific question, feel free to drop them because I'm also curious, and we can here also to answer your questions. And yes, you can showcase whatever you want. You can just hit the share button. It should be automatically available, and
Mhm.
we will see if you can showcase some cool stuff.
Yeah, so can you see my VS Code window?
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, so I think it's easiest to maybe to answer this question of how do we write code without it, if I understood correctly, how do we write code and maintain quality? I can just show the workflow that I'm using. I don't know that we'll find any issues with the code here, but so
Yeah. So,
typically
sorry. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, Guy. Are you sharing the correct window? Is just a single one? You have just a single monitor?
What do you see? Do you see my VS Code window or not?
No, I think I see. I
Uh,
saw the other one.
let me see.
Let's see. By the way, this stream is also on YouTube. So we are live actually on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So you can choose whenever you want to watch us. Pulast is asking. Pulast is asking where is this? This we are also live on YouTube, and of course the live stream on YouTube will stay on the platform. So this video will be available on YouTube at the same link. Okay, perfect.
There we go.
Let's see.
Yeah, and so here I'm working on a task of taking our CLI tool and starting to add the ability to configure tool permissions to it, so that you can, when you run the CLI tool, you can configure which tools are allowed to run, which are not allowed to run, which tools you need to go back to the user to ask permission, and so on. And so I have Augment installed. I have the agent sidebar here on the right. And previously, there was a piece of code where the agent implemented an is tool allowed function, but it implemented it in the wrong place. It implemented it inside, somewhere inside of the agent loop instead of a more appropriate place. And so I'm asking it here to really do a fairly simple refactoring, take this function is tool allowed that it generated before, and then move it to the tools model, which is where I feel is the appropriate place to do this. And so the agent goes and works and works and works. Uh, and then the way I usually supervise it is I don't tend to look at everything that it does in great detail, because you can see it's doing, well, if we look from the start, it's calling the context engine to understand what's what, because this is a new agent session that I started for this purpose. It goes and reads directories and files and so on. I don't want to supervise all of this. I really just care about what it did at the end. So maybe I will look at oh, I guess there was another thing in the middle here where it had some lingering type errors. And so I might look at the final message, but really the thing I care about is I go to the source control tab here in VS Code, and I can see the files that it changed, like agent loop, for example. And I go and review the code this way. So here I can see that it added an import to is tool allowed because it moved it to this other file. And then I can see that, you see, this is the function that was there before, is tool allowed. It replaced this function with a call to this check tool allowed function that it moved to the other file. So it did the refactoring that I asked it to do. And then we can go probably to tool utils, which is the other file, and we can see that it added the function. And so that's essentially how I spend, I don't know, probably 80–90% of my time working with the agent. I steer it from the sidebar, and then it does its thing. I kind of skim its answers, but mostly I look at the version control tab and I see and that's where I supervise. And then if there's something wrong, for example, if there's something generally wrong, I will go and type another instruction and keep steering it. I also have like a little trick that I like, which is to go and leave it to do agent comments, like, I don't know, rename this to tool call or something. This is a nonsensical comment, but I will leave it like to do agent comments like this, and then I will tell it I left you some to do agent comments. Go do them. And then I will hit enter and it will go find them and implement them and so on. That's when I want to give it comments that are kind of embedded inside the code. So these are some of the ways that I use it.
Thank you. This is similar, let's say, to a virtual, a digital sticky note, let's say, for agent, basically.
Exactly.
Like a bookmark. And thank you. We have some questions, so we can keep going and showcasing these until you want. And maybe we can take this question from Razvan from Twitch. And I think it's a very interesting one, which is like, I encountered an issue with multiple models. They tend to generate a response quickly and only search online if I specifically indicate that the answer is wrong. We all know that you're absolutely right output. How does Augment code handle some missing information? I think this is a very nice question.
Yeah, very good question. And certainly models often tend to hallucinate their answers. We certainly in the prompt push the model to try not to guess, because we are giving the model quite a few tools that allow it to gather information where it needs to. So it can go and ask our context engine, it can go navigate the file system, it can run terminal commands, it can fetch things from the web, like do web searches and fetch web pages and so on. And so we try to steer it toward not guessing and using the tools that are available to it to really understand what it needs to do without guessing. I think another thing that really helps with code is that you can execute it. And that's another guardrail against hallucinations, because if the agent decided to generate a function or call, let's say the agent decided to call a function that just doesn't exist, then we will immediately, if you're in the IDE, for example, we will immediately tell it that there's a compilation error or a linter error, and it will go and fix that. That's kind of the first line of defense. And then if you tell it to, yeah, just test the code without even looking at it, you can tell it test the code, and then it will run it. If there are any errors, the tests will fail, and then it will go fix them. So there, within coding, there are all these things that help. At the end of the day, it can still hallucinate, but certainly the rate of errors because of all these things that we do and that are available, in my experience, it's lower than if you go to ChatGPT or if you go to Claude and talk to it directly, just because it has more tools at its disposal to gather information.
Thank you, and also thank you so much also for being honest and transparent, of course, because there is still no perfect model. But I think that Razvan took a very important point, which is like understanding the model should also understand its limitations, and when it's it's just, instead of doing just the grammar feedback and just giving me the vibe that basically I don't have like a real senior engineer who is correcting me when I do the wrong thing. And I think this is something that people are they really need. I need this. For example, when I write the code, I don't need a grammar coder. I need someone who can tell me like, hey, this is wrong. This is BS. We should change this. What you're telling is absolutely wrong. Will we ever get a model that does this? We hope so. But I think that it would be nice to have more, like a real like tool that can code along with us or code like with our supervision, but it can still be independent. you know that's it. um we can take maybe this very quick one, which is let's say more about a broader topic. This is your opportunity to drop some questions, so we are doing a very quick Q&A, and then we'll go more into some details, because I also want to know more about the future of Augment Code. What are your plans for the future? So we are doing now a 5 minutes Q&A. This is probably a good opportunity if you have any questions about Augment Code, AI, coding, even let's say careers and AI. We can try to help. So let's try to help people. So Bernard is asking like, and this is an interesting question. Roles and skills you can focus on as a developer now that writing code is no longer a magical skill.
Mhm.
First of all, was coding a magical skill in the past, and how did it change? I'm not sure, but I think the meaning of what you are trying to say. But I like that he's asking like what we should focus on. What do you think is the way to still have a career in 2025 as developers?
Yeah. So let's see. So I think right now, if you use these tools, let's say if you use Augment, yes, you don't really need to write code yourself, but it's still very important to understand the architecture, to have good taste in terms of design, to like appreciate the complexity of your software system, and to closely supervise the decisions that the agent makes. Because if you don't do that and you don't spend the time to understand how to build complex systems, which is really the core skill. I mean, the core skill of software development isn't typing characters. It's understanding how to deal with the complexity of large systems. Uh, so I would say that skill is still extremely valuable, because if you don't know how to do that, if you don't develop that skill and you just vibe code uh, in the extreme sense with the agent, you just let it do whatever it wants and check in the code and continue. What you find is that once your project gets to about 10, 20,000 lines of code, let's say if it's a new project, things start slowing down because of all the bad architecture decisions that the agent made. And the agent can't make any progress anymore, and you can't make any progress anymore. So these skills that are at the core of software development are still super important today. They're still necessary. Now, agents are getting better. So how long will that last? I don't know. But right now, that still seems like a a skill that's going to last us a while. I would say that then there are useful skills to focus on that are somewhat they're adjacent to software development, but they are close. Um, I would highlight design and product development, like UI and UX, as things that are super important. I think those are things that, as a developer who understands the technical side deeply, um, you can have an edge if you ramp up on the skills from that side of product development. Um, and the beautiful thing about these new tools is that they let you try stuff out so much faster than before. And so if you know how to use them and you are interested in thinking about the product, the UI, the UX, you can prototype things really quickly, you can build things really quickly. But still, you got to know what to build, and you still have to have um, the skill of building things that users find delightful, which is highly non-trivial and not something you get from the agents at all. That is still something that humans have to bring to the table. So these are kind of the skills that I would focus on.
Thank you, and I hope, Bernard, that this was useful. And so basically, the learning even how to use AI in this era is probably the best, one of the best skills. I'm also, let's say, famous for not being like a huge fan of vibe coding in the sense of like deploying whole applications in one click. Not because it's not technically possible, but just to give an idea. You see how, in which terms Guy is speaking. He's speaking in terms of hundreds of thousands of codes. Of course, if you ask for a very basic hello world, a very basic to-do list, I mean, this is something that, and probably there are also some examples on the internet, even on Stack Overflow, that you can just copy paste and they would probably work. So this is not like a thing that changed much. You can try if you feel lucky. And of course, also, for example, I've been trying, I don't know, for example, deploying a multiplayer game, for example, using some tools. And of course, if you want to have some fun, it's okay. Even especially, for example, if you want to actually test the tool, in that case, it's okay. You say just asking like 3, 4, 5 features. If you have something in production, if you have a medium project, medium can be like 100,000 lines of code, then things they get out of control. You know what I really don't like about web coding, and I think I'll die with this opinion, is the fact that things can go smoother. When things go bad, they are way worse than before. So it's like, okay, if I get everything, I can consider myself lucky. But this is not how you build things. Like, it's like, trying hammering things randomly and saying, okay, it worked. It's not professional. It's not, you can't rely on luck. I'm also not famous for being that lucky. So I would say that probably the best is to break tasks in small chunks, trying to go step by step. I liked, for example, that I also want to test the fact of understanding the context as better as possible for a tool. And then I prefer to stick to the existing workflow, like the GitHub one, I would say, and then try to deploy. And I think where AI can really help us is in the implementation of the single feature. That's where really AI really shines. I don't know, if I give a very specific task with all the context, I don't know, out of this project, I just want to add a button for authentication. Maybe it can do in a single prompt, or maybe, but let's say that I'm giving like a very specific task, even if it's not that easy, it can probably help. So that's the thing. And also probably something else that I would like to see more in AI is like the possibility, let's say, to understand the status and maybe, for example, do rollbacks, for example, going back on the previous state. I don't know if this is also your issue. Because, for example, especially, let's say, if you wanted to deploy like like a real application. For example, I was for fun, I was trying to deploy a game, and I think that the agents they have this tendency of changing things when we don't ask for them. It happens sometimes, and when there is something broken and we try to do the rollback, which of course the rollback usually takes some time, let's say, it might be not trivial to go to the previous stage. So this is, I think, one of the issues that there are. Yes, so I would like to know maybe your point of view on this. For example, in if you think this is an issue, if you are going into a specific direction with augment code, and yes, and then probably also something about the future of augment code, but we will get this soon.
Yeah, on reverts. So we work to develop our own solution for reverting changes. I think what we landed on eventually is a solution that's based on the one that I kind of demoed, which is simply to use Git. I mean, Git is so powerful and it has already all the mechanisms that you need to keep, to version things and keep track of things. And so the way we're using it and the way we've ended up building it into the product is to rely on the Git workflow. And so the way I do it personally is after I supervise the changes that the agent made, I will stage them in Git. And as more changes get accumulated, everything that I like, I will stage. And at some point, if it all looks really good and I don't want to revisit it, I commit. And then that makes it super easy to avoid like these disastrous rabbit holes where I had something that worked really well, and then I asked the agents just one little thing, and then it went and destroyed everything, right? Because I really hit these milestones every time, and so if it just goes off the rails, it's just one discard click, and all the damage that it's done is just gone. So I didn't lose any work. It's like taking backups, basically. And then the other thing that helps is if the agent does go off the rails, often it's better to, instead of keep trying to put it back on track, it's better to go back in the dialogue history and change a message and let it go again. Because it's often easier to, because once it goes down some rabbit path, some rabbit hole, it's often hard to kind of steer it away from that. So with Augment, you can just scroll back, edit a message, and run it again, and then all the context from that point on is gone. So that's another mechanism for reverting. So overall, it's about once you get used to these few best practices, you never have to lose any work, basically. But it takes some getting used to.
Yes, and of course, we're still in the era when we are still trying to understand. I like that you mentioned that like at least we have a way to do a sort of rollback, and I think this is it's super important to create production grade applications. Again, if you want to have fun on a Saturday night and you like to stay at home and code sometimes it's fine. You can even try things. I like, for example, to compare AI tools, so like giving like crazy prompts. In that case, it's fine. Once you get into the professional thing, you probably understand that we can't do this in this way for more obvious reason. And even worse, if you have like a working startup with paying users, in that case, probably you will be very careful. And yeah, I think the experience is better if you have work experience in the tech. Yes, James, I think that, I don't know, now I feel lucky that I had some experience because I think that in our generations now they have this issue, like, should I, just go full AI mode or do the things the old way, old-fashioned way for a while? Or do I have the time to do this the old-fashioned way? And then they don't know. And probably it's a problem for them. I think that the best would be to actually learn and understand things. I will keep repeating this, that like anyone on Twitter and social media, they claim how AI can be used to generate a lot of code. Less people let's say on how I can use AI actually to understand things, or for example about the security. Don't even make me get started with security because we are almost at the end of this event. Otherwise, I will keep Guy here for 4 more hours. A very simple thing that we can do is try at least to use AI to implement security features. People are not even doing that. So they don't even have it's like not having the problems. Like you want to drive a car, you don't even know that you need to put the fuel into it. So that's an issue. So it's like a real basic knowledge. And I think that AI can do a decent job if it at least you ask, like, okay, we have this database. Is it secure? How we can improve security? How we can, I don't know, avoid the DDoS attacks, cross origin, let's say, attacks. So that's, but of course, we need to mention it because, of course, because I'm also sure that AI is probably trained on many side projects and something like that. So many of the projects they don't even have security, and it's fine, I think. What do you mean, like a YouTube video or Udemy course for AI? I should be. I used to learn things. Okay. Perfect, Guy. After this, me ranting a couple of minutes because I think that I think it's important, especially in this era, to keep being focused on using AI in the best way to write better code. My probably is my final question for today before I recap is what's the direction Augment Code is going. I see you are doing very cool stuff. I'm really looking forward to try and test these things. I can do this alone, or you can come and just make fun of me. Both of the solutions they work, but I'm curious about what's the direction and what do you think is like something that are probably currently focused on. And if sorry for interrupting you, and if you have any question, this is probably your last chance. So feel free to drop them, and we'll try to answer them all. So we'll have a quick Q&A if you have any question, and then we'll wrap up for today. So, Guy, what's the future of Augment Code? Thank you.
Yeah. So, our differentiation is that we work really well on large code bases, and so our current product is very well suited for interactive development with agents. You're in your IDE, you're doing feature development, you're doing bug fixing, whatever it is, you can use Augment for that. We think that agents have gotten so good, and especially when you give them the right context, they've gotten so good that we can now take it to the next level and start automating more of the software development lifecycle. And that is what we're working toward. It's getting more outside of the IDE with things like the CLI agent, and also we have another thing I didn't mention, which is the remote agents platform. These are agents that run on sandboxed VMs. They can also run in parallel and keep running in the background, but you don't need your own computer for running them. So with things like CLI and remote agents, you can really start automating more and more of software development. And it all comes down to how good the agents are and can they really accomplish tasks in one shot. Because if they can accomplish tasks in one shot, that's when you get the chance to automate. And we think that's where we are today. And so for us, automation is where we're headed, and helping you with more tasks in your software development cycle beyond like the inner loop of software development.
Thank you, Guy, and looking forward for everything which is coming up. I think that you are doing a good job. I will check. I also see the docs there, so I have to check everything. But usually, I like to, let's say, test it probably also part live, part to give some honest feedback, good feedback. So we will see. But this is something probably I will do. I like the idea of working on large code bases. I think this is an issue of many AI tools that once you start giving, something which is, can I say, a bit more complex? Because you mentioned like 20,000 lines of code. It's not. It seems a lot. Like if you are probably a student or if you code just a small project. I remember having, when I was working for the European Space Agency, files with 20,000 lines of code.
Mhm.
Although I know it should not be done that way. I should probably not even say this, but this can happen because when you are going production mode, you don't even know. It was not me. I can say, but it can happen. So once you have this large context, you have a problem because just to give context, a big context to AI, it becomes a job. Like you should start doing all the things, and maybe you don't want to spend your time giving context. You want to spend that little time you have maybe to deploy a new feature. Is it right? So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Yeah.
mhm.
That's
Yeah.
what
The
we
problem
try
is
to help with. Exactly. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, okay, so I got the point. So
Yeah.
thank you because it's nice also to have this open conversation, and I think that do you agree that like in this era of AI, like many there are also so it seems that AI is generating a lot of stuff, but it seems that there are also so many small tasks that are like coming up. I don't know, giving the prompt, waiting for the prompt to reply. It's making our life easier in the terms of actually writing the code. But then there is like this thing reverting if we have something vibe coded and trying to explain things to AI on which part is not like for example you first before you were doing like giving context to AI. So there are like many small tasks that all together says okay 3 hours have passed. Like I was just wanted to create a single feature, and probably if you're an expert developer, you could have done almost a better job in that case. So, and it's not to say that AI tools are not useful. It's the opposite. AI tools should be focused on improving our workflow. Otherwise, it seems a sort of regression or just a bit of noise. It's like I don't know. It's like when you had I don't know fancy IDEs that maybe they were not like that useful, or maybe they were even slowing down things. And I think developers really hate this, like having a tool that slows you down. I don't know you, but I hate when I have
Yeah.
something that is slowing me down when I do something professionally because I know how much time I get. Does it take to me exactly? I know this takes exactly 25 minutes for me to do because I've done this so many times. I know 24 minutes and a half. If I know that AI is doing this in 40 minutes, I get pissed. I get upset. I would say, and I start questioning if I'll ever use that AI tool again. So that's the thing. I'm curious to test Augment Code with maybe some code base. I have some code bases, I think, public here, or I can try, for example, I think a good use case. I don't know if I'm just having an idea now. Is maybe you can, maybe fork a bit project and then you work on it. Let's say for something. No? For example, I think. Do you think this might be like a nice use case? Let's say, for example, for
Yeah,
Augment
that's a
Code,
great use
like
case. That's a great
right.
use case. Another use case that I often have is if I want to just learn about a new code base, let's say it's a library that I want to learn how to use,
Cool.
I will just clone it, open it up in Augment, and then just start asking Augment questions about it to learn about it. And what this, just getting into a new code base, it used to take me at least hours, if not days sometimes. But with Augment, I can ask it a few questions, really focus in on the areas that I care about. I can learn about a new code base often in a matter of minutes and start using it. If it's a library, I can start using it for my own code, for example. So these are both great use cases for Augment. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I would like to test it, maybe even trying to push it to the limits and see how what it can do. I have an idea, which might be to even like fork the Rust repository, the language repository.
Mhm.
What do you think about this idea? I just had this idea now and see. So probably this is something that I will do
Yeah, that will
in
be
the future.
super
And
interesting. Yeah.
because I forked that in the past, but for example, now that you're thinking, I had a similar issue. It's like, of course, that's not a 100 lines of code. The Rust programming language, which is an open source project, is very cool. But you can try to solve some issues and make some PRs. We'll see. That will be make me very proud. And this is probably, I think, a nice use case. I need to write this down because tomorrow I'll go on vacation. Otherwise, I'll forget it. It's very good idea. So, Francesco, your brain still works. If you have other ideas, you can also drop it down in the chat. We are at the end of this conversation. I would really remind you that you have this link. So go and check it out, augmentcode.com. I hope that this has been a useful conversation, very open. Thank you so much, Guy, for being so transparent, to sharing your experience, to highlight the strong points of Augment Code. I am excited, so I will. I think I will. I'm planning this live event, and I will probably do this soon. I don't know if I'll do this before and after RustConf. I'm going to RustConf in Seattle, the 1st of September. So just 2 days after I'll be back from my vacation. So I mean, so I will travel a lot in these 2 weeks. But after that, I'll go back to live streams. I'm planning more stuff. I'll probably even share my ideas and how it worked on Twitter, on all the social media. That's it. Do you want to add anything else? Did we forget to discuss something? So if you want, if we did, please share it now, and then we can have some final thoughts, final things, and then we can wrap up for today and probably for the rest of the week. So, Guy, over to you.
Oh yeah, I think we covered pretty much everything. Give Augment Code a try, especially if you have a open source project or a project that's like a large code base. We can deal with millions, many millions of lines of code. So really don't be shy. Throw your biggest project at it and should do fine. And we always love to get feedback. So definitely, Francesco, if you try it out and have any feedback, good, bad, happy to hear all of it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for saying this. And I think this is the right mindset and approach if your goal is not to have, just a grammar feedback, the grammar feedback, like everything is good, you're amazing, whatever you do. Instead, I think that, especially in this era, we really need like feedback for people who are using it. So basically, we're sort of helping and testing the tool. So I will probably do some tests, some tries, different tries, and then I will probably share my experience. So this is also why I wanted to have this conversation with you before trying it out just myself, because maybe also this information about, for example, big context, big or large code bases, maybe I don't know, I would have maybe missed, and I would try something a bit different. I think this is a great thing that you can also try. So, for example, what I would like to mention is that if you use Augment Code, for example, and you have another big project, I don't know, Node.js, another project you have on GitHub, or you want to fork a bit project, try to work and contribute open source. For example, you can try it out for example, I think another use case is that let's say that you have an interview for a company, maybe the day after tomorrow, and you need to understand more about the open source project. I think Augment Code can help you a lot because you don't have that much time, and we can know how you can get stressed when you're about to do an interview to get a job. I think this also can be another good use case. So I'm I already have like 2, 3, 4 use cases. So thank you so much for sharing this, Guy. I think that this has been very useful. And I'm done for today. So it's 6 p.m. here, and I think that I'm done for today. So I want to relax a bit. I still have to do my language for tomorrow. I always do this the day before. I think it never happened that I did this the week before. So that's it. So no time to test it today. I'm a bit sad because I wanted to try it right now, but I will keep notes. And if I forget, please remind me this. Super excited to test it out. And yeah, thank you so much. You're very kind person. I don't know if you will ever meet in person. I don't know if you travel or if you go around the world, but I'm sure that at some point we will meet probably at some conferences or around the world. I travel a lot, so we might meet at some point. So thanks again, and of course you can say well done to all the team from Francesco, and you can tell them that I will try it out soon, and I will give like the honest feedback as soon as possible. I would like this to really be a good project and successful project. So thanks again, and we are done. You can check the link below. You can subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of conversations, and also do some testing and stuff and coding. And we are done. Thanks.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye bye.